Trey Smith just signed a massive 4-year, $94 million extension with the Kansas City Chiefs with $70 million fully guaranteed. I'm Michael Darcy, he's Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and in this video we are going to react to the massive extension that we just saw take place right before the July 15th deadline. So Josh, Trey Smith just became the highest paid guard in NFL history by getting this deal done. He is going to be making $23.5 million per year over the next 4 years. What are your instant thoughts to this deal?
Well, it's nice that they came to a resolution before the deadline today. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. You didn't want this dragging into the season and then next off season holding up your plans and free agency, all that stuff. But it is a lot of money for an offensive guard, Michael, and I've made my thoughts on that pretty clear. This is a lot of money for an interior offensive lineman. Not something that I necessarily agree with. Brett Veach thinks differently. That's fine. That's whatever. Everyone can have their own opinion on that. But ultimately, I'm glad that this isn't something hanging over the heads of the front office and Trey Smith, heading into the season.
So Josh, we made a video, I want to say 4 or 5 days ago, where we were talking about this situation and if Trey Smith and the Chiefs would get a long-term extension done. Both of us said no. And I actually got some insider information, I want to say a couple days ago, that Trey Smith was going to get a deal done with the Chiefs. It was only a matter of time. The number was a little bit off, but initially he requested a lot more money than the Chiefs could feasibly give him. So I kind of look like an idiot after saying that he's not going to get a long-term deal done, but clearly both sides were able to, come out of this with a deal done. I think that it's best case scenario because the Chiefs obviously wanted Trey Smith and Trey Smith wanted to be here, and now the Chiefs have one of the cornerstones of their offensive line for the next 4 seasons. And Patrick Mahomes has his right guard to go alongside, Creed Humphrey at center. So the Chiefs went in back-to-back off seasons and paid a center and a right guard a ton of money. And Josh, I want to get your thoughts on the team building of the Chiefs right now, paying all of this money to the interior offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been pretty strong in my stance that this is not the way that I would build a team. And again, Brett Veach thinks differently. He really values offensive line. Regardless of, the actual position on the offensive line, he values protecting Patrick Mahomes. He did swear that what would happen in Super Bowl 55 would never happen again, although it literally did happen again. But that's a story for another day. Here's the thing, Michael. I don't love paying an interior offensive lineman this much money because I think the Chiefs have actually done a really good job finding great value at the guard position and on players that they wouldn't have to pay nearly this much money. I mean, look at Nick Allegretti, who was a 7th-round pick for them, started in a Super Bowl. They didn't miss a beat with him in there as opposed to Joe Tooney. He plays for the Commanders now. They made the NFC Championship game last year.
You mean
Nick Allegretti.
Wiley?
No, Allegretti.
Yeah,
Allegretti
you said Tooney played on the Commanders, so I was just...
No. Tooney, I'm saying that Tooney, he played in place of Tooney in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs didn't miss a beat. So, really, I just think... And look, Kingsley Suamataia, they're about to throw him out at left guard in place of Joe Tooney, and we're just supposed to pretend like that's no big deal. Although he was a 2nd-round pick, but that's not the position that he was originally drafted to play. But they think they can plug him in there. My point is that guard is one of those positions that I think you can find really... If you were to make a list, really, Michael, of the positions from most important to least important, I think guard's pretty close to the bottom. And it's not to say it's not important, and offensive line is important, but I just think this is the type of contract that when you give it out, you have it in the back of your head, this amount of money means that there's going to be someone that we can't pay later on. And is that player more important than Trey Smith? We'll just have to see.
When Josh, they already made a decision. They already chose Trey Smith over Joe Tooney. That's why they traded him earlier on this offseason. And so we're going to see if Trey Smith ends up being, the caliber of player that Joe Tooney was in a couple of years, because the Chiefs giving Trey Smith $23.5 million, making him the highest paid guard in NFL history. They are hoping that he develops into being an all-pro guard. He's a good guard. He's a Pro Bowler. He's not an all-pro yet. And so the Chiefs are banking on him continually getting better because you already had the best left guard in football in Joe Thuney. You shipped him off to Chicago. So the hope is that Smith is going to continue to take a jump, because if he doesn't, I don't know if they made the right decision. And I do think that there is something to be said that for the fans that are complaining about how much money that Trey Smith's getting, listen, the guard market is going to continue to just skyrocket. And so the Chiefs paying Trey Smith $23.5 million over the next 4 seasons, in 2 or 3 years, this is going to be a steal of a contract. It's just going to have to take a little bit for the market to kind of adjust.
Well, I'll push back a little bit. I don't think it'll be considered a steal, but you're right in that, like, this is going to reset the market. People are going to get paid more than Trey Smith. He'll fall down the list of highest paid guards. It won't look as, and I'm not even saying it's bad, but it won't look as bad as it does right now. He won't be the highest paid guard 3 to 4 years from now. It'll probably be pretty far down the list. But again, it's still a lot of money. We have to acknowledge that. I mean, he is the highest paid guard in NFL history now. Now, Michael, you pointed this out in the video we did on my channel, and I want to bring it up here, but he's making actually a lot more money than Joe Thuney ever made. Joe Thuney was an All-Pro before Kansas City. He continued to be an All-Pro in Kansas City. Trey Smith has never been All-Pro. Let me repeat that. He's never been All-Pro and just became the highest paid guard in NFL history. So this is about what the Chiefs think he will be throughout the duration of the contract. They think he will get better. They're banking on his young age, his upside, that being a better investment than it was to keep Joe Thuney around, which I understand that. But we just have to acknowledge still that it's a lot of money to give out to a guy who's a top 10-ish, 15-ish interior offensive lineman, and they just made him the highest paid in league history.
Well, Josh, I love Trey Smith. I think that he is a very good right guard. I think
great
he
teammate,
could be an All-Pro, great teammate, someone that loses sleep over thinking about how to protect Patrick Mahomes. I will say, he is not the best in pass pro. He's great in the running game. Mm-hmm. He could be better at blocking for Patrick Mahomes. And I think that part of that is kind of due to Jawan Taylor's drop back and there being so much space for a defender to, get through. But I do think that he's going to have to improve his, pass blocking, because that's what we're paying you to do. And Joe Thuney was one of the best pass blockers in the NFL. He was so good that he made the transition to left tackle and looked pretty solid. And so I do think that, with the expectation of being a starter on this offensive line, is the expectation to improve every single year, especially when the offensive line was one of the glaring issues the Chiefs had last year. Now, obviously, if the left tackle doesn't end up working out this year, the Chiefs have a completely separate problem, completely separate from Trey Smith. But the hope is that with a guy like Josh Simmons, who you drafted, with Jalen Moore, who you brought in free agency, they are going to help elevate the offensive line, but you have an anchor in Trey Smith, and I think that's a big reason why the Chiefs brought him back.
Yeah, and the other important factor in all this, you kind of hinted at it there, is what's going to happen at left tackle. If the Chiefs' investment into Josh Simmons, or Jalen Moore for that matter, ends up working out, then you can be a lot more comfortable paying that much money for the interior offensive line. If we're sitting here a year from now, it's clear the Josh Simmons thing isn't going to work. It's clear the Jalen Moore thing's not going to work. And the Chiefs say, we have to go out and pay the sure thing at left tackle. And then all of a sudden we're looking at, a quarter of the team's cap space being tied up and 3 players on the offensive line. It's going to look a little bit bad on Brett Veach in the front office just to have that much money tied up, across the entire offensive line. And I'm not saying that it's not important that you invest in the offensive line, but what if the Trey Smith contract keeps you from paying that guy that you want at left tackle, from paying the sure thing at left tackle because you decided to pay Trey Smith this offseason? It's just something to think about.
What I do want to break down and talk about some of the numbers and the contract year by year, and we'll do that right after this ad break. The Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway is the place to be. With over 1,500 slot machines, 35 table games, 4 restaurants, and a new ESPN Bet Sportsbook, there are plenty of ways to find your fun. For more chances to win, follow them on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
At Rice Real Estate Group, they're more than just a real estate team. They're a full-service partner in residential, commercial, and investment properties. They specialize in guiding clients through every stage, from the buying and selling process to handling complex, short sale situations with ease. Their passion lies in the personal one-on-one care they bring to every client relationship, ensuring each experience is tailored, smooth, and successful. Here it's all about building trust, delivering expertise, and ensuring every client feels valued throughout their journey. For more information, call Marla Rice at 816-819-9333.
Huge thanks to the sponsors that support this channel all offseason long. Now, Josh, I think that a lot of fans, when they first saw this $94 million, $70 million fully guaranteed, kind of freaked out a little bit and were like, oh my gosh, how are the Chiefs going to afford this? Now, there's this really good step-by-step breakdown from Spot Track that I'm going to read off. Trey Smith's 4-year, $94 million contract with the Chiefs includes $27 million in cash in 2025, $46.75 million guaranteed at signing, $67 million 2-year cash, 2027 salary locks next March, 3 years, $70.5 million practical. Cap hits in 2025, it will be $14.25 million, with $9 million of that guaranteed, followed by the 2026 and 2027 cap hits are going to be $24 million. In 2027, it's going to be 27. On 2028, it's also going to be $27 million. So they kind of spread this contract out, but a lot of it's front-loaded. And so it'll be nice to see the Chiefs have some money to work with towards the end of this Trey Smith contract, because for so long, they've backloaded a lot of these deals.
Yeah, for sure. And they've decided to take an approach to this one where they spread out the money a little bit more. He gets paid a lot earlier in the contract. And I think that structure, was done for a reason, because you mentioned it on my channel, Michael. They backloaded a lot of these recent deals, the big money contracts they've signed. Well, at some point, you're going to have to start paying a lot more money up front. And they did that a lot here with Trey Smith. And also, I think you were the one that mentioned it to me that just by signing this contract, Trey Smith is about $45 million richer. I think that structure is going to go towards hopefully working something out with someone like Trent McDuffie, who I think is the next big piece.
I was about to ask you, after Trey Smith, the attention kind of shifts towards Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. Do you think that they get a deal done with either of those guys during this offseason? I guess they can. Never mind. Well, can they?
Well,
I guess they can.
I believe, yeah, they can. It's just the other guys that you saw getting extended today, the deadline was
under the franchise tag.
Under the franchise tag, yeah. Correct. Yeah, so those guys can be extended really at any time, but I don't know if the Chiefs will do it right now. I'm hopeful they'll do something with Trent McDuffie soon, though. He's the most important one.
I was going to say that price tag for Trent McDuffie is only going up. I mean, you saw other corners just get absolutely paid. We're looking at north of $100 million. And so if you're Brett Veach, you got to get this done sooner rather than later before some other schmuck gets paid a lot more money and resets the market and just makes Trent McDuffie even more expensive. But Josh, that's all the time we have in this video. Again, Trey Smith just signed a 4-year, $94 million extension with the Kansas City Chiefs with $70 million fully guaranteed. He becomes the highest paid guard in NFL history, and it is just about time that they finally get a deal done with this guy. So, Josh, my final question for you is, where can the people find your stuff?
You can find me here on YouTube. Show Me Football is the channel name. Check out my work, showmefootball.com. And then lastly, follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB.
And guys, all that stuff will be available in the description of this video. Hit that like button, subscribe for more daily Chiefs coverage. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching. And as always, go Chiefs.